Hi, in this video I'll show you how to factor the quadratic equation by grouping. So in this method, we'll write our middle term, which is negative 5x. We'll split the middle term into two separate terms, and then we'll factor it by a grouping. So I'll show you how to do that. But the first thing we have to do is we have to multiply a and c. So a is the coefficient of x squared and c is the constant term. So let's multiply this first. So 6 times negative 4 will give me negative 24. Now I have to think of two factors, two numbers, which when multiplied to give me negative 24, but which when added should give me negative 5, which is our middle term. I'm repeating that again. We have to think of two numbers which when multiplied to give me negative 24, but when added should give me the middle term. They should be added to give me the middle term, which is negative 5. So the first thing we have to do is let's list out the factors of 24. We'll just ignore the sign for a bit and we'll work on it later. So factors of 24 could be 24 and 1. 6 times 4 also gives me 24, 6 and 4. Then I have 8, 3, and then I have 12 and 2. And I can't think of any more factors of 24. So now I have to think which two factors will work in my case. Since I have to look that two factors should be multiplied to give me negative 24, but when added should give me negative 5. So let's see, 24 times 1 will be 24, but do you think that 24 and 1 will add or subtract to give me negative 5? No, that is not possible. Now 6 and 4, 6 times 4 is 24, but when you add or subtract 6 and 4, you can't get negative 5. Now let's move to another factor, 8 and 3. Now 8 times 3 is 24. And when you subtract 3 from 8, 8 minus 3 will give me 5. That means this factor, this pair will work. 8 and 3 will work in our case. Now we have to think that which number will be negative, since you can see that the product of these two factors is negative 24. And when do you get the negative product? That means that one number has to be negative. If both the numbers are negative, then the product will be positive. But here in our case, one number is negative. That's why your product is negative. That means one of the number will be negative. 8 and 3. Either 8 will be negative or 3 will be negatives, because this factor will only work here. So either 8 will be negative or 3 will be negative. Now we have to think which one will be negative. Now you have to think if you're adding a positive and a negative number, and your answer is negative, you should get negative 5. Two factors are multiplied to give you negative 24, but when you add those factors, you're getting negative 5. Now you know for sure that these factors are 8 and 3, 8 and 3, and you know that one factor has to be negative, right? And you're adding a positive and a negative number. If you're adding a positive and a negative number and your answer is negative, that means which number is larger? Is the positive number larger or the negative number larger? Which number could be larger? Well, the negative number will be larger. That's why you're keeping the sign of the negative. That's why you're keeping the negative sign here. So that means the 8 will have the negative sign in front of it, since when you add negative 8 and 3, you'll get negative 5. You can't have negative 3, because if you have 8 and negative 3, 8 plus negative 3 will be positive 5, and you'll not get positive. You should get negative 5, not positive 5. So that's why it can be 8 and negative 3. It will be negative 8 and 3. So now we know for sure our factors are negative 8 and 3. So I'll write the negative sign here in front of it. So factors are negative 8 and 3. So we'll break this middle term into these two factors. So I'll write this equation as 6x squared. Then instead of negative 5x, I will write negative 8x plus 3x minus 4. Now you can see that I have not changed the equation at all. The equation is still the same. This is just I have split the middle term into two separate terms. Now what I'll do is I'll solve it by grouping. So I'll make two pairs, these two pairs and these two pairs, and now I have to work on it. So I have made two pairs. Now what I have to do is find the GCF of these pairs. So what do you think? What do they share in common here? 6x squared minus 8x. What do you think? What do they share in common? Well, they share 2x in common. Now what you have to do is you open the parentheses here. Now you have to divide this term by 2x. 6x squared divided by 2x. So you'll get x. This is x times x. You can write this as 6 times x. And this is 2x. So x and x will cancel out each other. 6 divided by 2 will give you 3. And then you have x here. So that means you will get 3x here inside. Now you have the negative sign in between. Now again, you have to divide 8x by 2x. So let's divide that 8x by 2x. Well, we can just do that mentally. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. And x divided by x, they will cancel out each other. So I'll have 3x minus 4. Then, what do I do here? What do they share anything in common here? No, they don't share anything in common. So if they don't share anything in common, then what you have to do is you have to factor out 1. You can either factor out positive 1 or negative 1, but in our case, negative 1 will not work. So we'll just factor out positive 1. Some cases negative 1 will work, but here I have to take out positive 1 as common. So inside I will have, well, 3x divided by 1 will give me 3x. And then I have the negative sign, 4 divided by 1 will be 4. So you have to remember, in case if you don't have anything common, if they don't share anything in common, then you have to take out plus 1 or negative 1 as common as the GCF. Now you can see that how many terms are there? This is the first term and this is the second term. Now you have two different terms. What you have to do is now you have to again find the GCF of these two terms. What is the GCF? What do they share anything in common? Yes, they share 3x minus 4 in common. So I will just take that out. 3x minus 4, and I would like to put that inside the parentheses. Now what is left inside? If I take out 3x minus 4 common here, if I take that outside, what is left inside? I just have 2x here. And then if I take out 3x minus 4 common from here, what do I have left inside? I have plus 1. So I have factored this. So this is how you factor it. My factors are 3x minus 4 and 2x plus 1. In case, if you have to solve this for x, what would you do? Is you will set this equation, you'll set the factored form equal to 0, or you can just set the equation equal to 0 if you have to solve it for x. Here, if you just have to factor it, this would be sufficient. This can be your final answer, but I'll show you one more step. How do you solve it for x? Now you have two different equations. You can separate these two equations. 3x minus 4 is equal to 0, or 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. Now, how do I get x by itself? So first of all, I will get rid of negative 4 from the left hand side. So add 4 on both the sides. So I have 3x is equal to 4, since positive 4 and negative 4 will cancel out each other. So now, how do I get x by itself again? I can divide both sides by 3. So I have x is equal to 4 over 3. And here, so how do I get x by itself? So first of all, let's subtract 1 on both the sides. So this will be 2x is equal to 0 minus 1 will be negative 1. And then I have to divide by 2 to get x by itself. So now this time I'll divide by 2. So my answer will be x is equal to negative 1 over 2. Now, I'm saying that again to you is if you just have to factor the equation, you stop right here and don't set equation equal to 0. If you just have to factor, you stop here. If you have to solve it for x, then you have to follow all these steps and get the value of x. So we have two values of x here. X is equal to 4 over 3 and x is equal to negative 1 over 2. So that's how you solve the quadratic equation by grouping. Thank you for watching. See you in next video.